Okay everyone, welcome back to the Wellstead. As you can see, it's been a little while since I was here. I've just come back from walking the Camino de Santiago across northern Spain. I would definitely recommend looking into it. One of the best experiences you'll ever have. And so it's been a little while since we were here at the Wellstead, and summer's here. And it's been very, very hot this year. So actually I'm gonna get out of the greenhouse because it is scorching hot in here. Let's see what the thermometer is saying. It's saying already close to 30 degrees Celsius in here. So let's get out of here while I still can breathe. Oh, that's better. So welcome back to the Wellstead. And the first thing I want to say before we get started with this episode is to say thank you for 1,000 subscribers. Thank you to everyone who has watched our videos, shared our videos, liked our videos, commented, and of course, if you are subscribed to the channel, thank you so much. Reaching this milestone is more important and more meaningful than just hitting a cool number on the channel. And so now that we've hit that, this channel is on its way to becoming more self-sustaining. So thanks again to everyone who has supported us over the last year and a bit. And I'm so excited to see how this channel is growing and where we're going to be going from now. Today we're going to focus on clearing up the farm and the main path up from the driveway, just to make it so much easier for us to access in the coming months. And then when it comes to autumn, we've got even more projects planned. Of course, that's where we're going to be planting the trees that we've purchased. And if you haven't seen that video, go and check the link up here to watch one of our latest episodes where we talk about what kind of trees we're going to be planting around and how we're hoping to help restore this area using that method. But for now, I've got a lot of work to do here. I think today I'm going to be focusing on pulling out some of this bracken and also tackling the Himalayan Balsam, which is just out of control. Actually, let's go have a look at that now. You can see even around here, the bracken is spreading. I don't remember seeing it this far into the woodland before. I think perhaps due to the extremely hot conditions or some other factor, the bracken is taking over the woodland. You can see we have now arrived at what should be the chicken coop. But there is something in our way. Himalayan Balsam. Now, if you've been watching the channel for a while, you've probably heard me talk about Himalayan Balsam before, and you've probably seen me try to tackle it before. But for those of you that don't know what this plant is, let me explain. So Himalayan Balsam, this stuff, is an extremely invasive species here in the UK. You can see it's very pretty. It's got these lovely pink, almost orchid-like flowers. And the best way to identify it is the hollow stems. In fact, if you watch this, wasn't great, but you can see the stems are hollow. You see that there? And of course, like the name suggests, Himalayan Balsam originates from the Himalayan region in Asia. And so when it grows here in Britain, I don't know whether it's the humidity of this area or the climate in Britain, it just grows absolutely crazy and takes over everywhere it reaches. So you can see behind me here, there was just a dense wall of Himalayan Balsam. This isn't the only area that it's reached in our woodland. We can find it in lots of different spots around. This is probably the worst, but to be honest, the other patches aren't looking that great either. Now, Himalayan Balsam is very, very tricky to get rid of, because if I uproot one here for you, you see it pulls up super easy, and it has these very strange, almost alien looking roots on there. You can uproot it very easily. However, as soon as you drop this back on the ground, if I was to just leave that there, that would almost instantly reroot, and either this would start to grow back up again, or it would just shoot off another stem. And the other thing is that Himalayan Balsam, the seed pods explode when touched. So what will happen is if you try to remove Himalayan Balsam in like late summer, for example, touching it will often exacerbate the issue because the seed pod will explode. Seeds will disperse, I think, up to 15 meters or something crazy, and they can just colonize an area like crazy. However, there is one good side to Himalayan Balsam, is that the entire plant, including the flowers, the roots, the stem, the leaves, everything, is edible. I don't know how it tastes. I'm not really too keen on trying it, to be honest. But that is perhaps the only upside to it, because it means that going out and balsam bashing, which is the activity of removing balsam, which I'm about to do today, means you're also foraging as well. So if you want to make balsam soup, I don't know, then you can. But overall, it's just a very nasty invasive plant that you can see how densely it grows, and it just will not let anything else grow underneath it. So that is one of my tasks for today. You can see back there, I'm going to make my way through this. I'm going to find a bucket or something, like a big water tub that I can chuck all the balsam into. But that's going to be my main task today, as well as thinning out some of the bracken here. Again, I don't want to remove all the bracken. Bracken, unlike balsam, is a native species, but it's what you call an opportunist. When the conditions arise for it to take over, it will gladly take over. However, there is also an upside to bracken. Bracken in a more natural condition would appear when a clearing has formed in a woodland from like a wind-felled tree or something like that, or a dead tree. Bracken will colonize the area around the tree, but what that actually means is that it will protect young tree saplings from browsers like deer, and therefore act as sort of like a mini nursery for those trees. For that reason, I'm not going to be worrying too much about what's up there, because that's going to be our tree planting area anyway, and then we'll see where that takes us to today. And I suppose it's rather ironic that my hair is just as overgrown as the woodland is. I'm not going to be here too long today because it is getting very hot very fast, so I'm just going to see what I'm able to get done. Got a lot of foxgloves growing here, which is great to see because I scattered so many wildflower seeds here over winter and early spring, and for a while I thought none of them were taking, but it's good to see that there are a few, like this foxgloves. There's some thistle down there. There were so many bluebells here back in spring, and all sorts of different wildflowers all around. So it is good to see that the wildflower seeds worked, but of course you get to this time of the year, everything dries up and the bracken just, blankets the floor. I believe that is a northern red oak tree that's growing there. There are 3 northern red oaks over there. They're an American species of tree. Here's an example of where bracken has dried up already. This is a major fire hazard, especially in heat like this. I'm curious though to see in the future, when we plant some trees up here at Zone A, how the climate of this area changes, and to see if the bracken doesn't grow as thick. Look at this, I've also found some droppings here amongst the bracken. Quite large, I'd reckon they're deer droppings. You can also see this tunnel here that seems like wildlife have been using. So it's interesting to see some droppings. They look very fresh as well. Okay, so I'm just in the middle of doing this time lapse here, and I've got a friend, a visitor, just next to me. Just run off up the valley there. It looked like a fallow deer, I think, which I've seen a few of before in the woodland, but it's nice to see another one. Where's it gone now? It's surprising that you spot a deer before it spots you. They're very jumpy creatures. There it is. Hello. Don't mind me. You can come in the farm if you want. You can help with this bracken. No? Okay. Enjoy the shade. I hope you find some berries to eat. That's it. Beautiful. Look at it go. Wow. 4 legs at once. Wow. Oh, it's great to be back. It's beautiful. So I've just cleared all of this, and now we've got some Himalayan balsam here in the corner of the farm. Again, you can see these are those orchid-like flowers. Bees love it, unfortunately, which means they keep producing seeds. These are the seed pods here, I believe. These little green things. They're not quite ripe enough yet to be bursting, which is good news for us because it means we can get on with removing the balsam. Oh, here we go. These ones will probably burst. Watch this. So ultimately I've just caused more work for myself next year by doing that, but removing them today isn't going to remove the problem. It's something you've got to keep on top of, so I thought I'd just demonstrate how those seed pods burst. But something else you can see, I'll pull this one out. Again, they pull out super easy. I'll pull these ones out too. This is that ragwort. Good stuff. Often villainized for no reason. Again, super easy to pull out. But this is an example of one that looks like it might have been pulled out or trampled over. And then you can see, look at the roots. And it grows over and it's fallen over, and then look at that. And it's continued to grow. So, very troublesome plant. Again, oh, there you go, you can hear the hollow stem there. There you go. Balsam bashing. If you see any balsam around in your local area, go pull it out the ground and do what you can with it. Like I said, it's edible as well, so if you want to try it, you know, each to their own, I guess. But it is a very troublesome plant, and this is only a small patch. These seeds could have even spread from the main area over there in the greenhouse. I mean, the chicken coop, sorry. Something else I've noticed is that the dead hedge has been completely swallowed by the bracken. But again, it's not a massive issue. But just standing here a minute ago, I could hear lots of rustling all around the farm in the dead hedge. And so I'm glad to see that different animals are using it. Just before I went away, I did put the wildlife camera down back over there and caught a little dormouse, I believe it was, or a wood mouse, I think. And just a couple of days ago I was actually on a sort of a conference call summit sort of thing about hedgehog conservation in woodlands, which was very interesting. And I learned that although hedgehogs are a woodland creature, you don't typically find them in woodlands anymore because their natural predator are badgers. And so hedgehog populations have declined massively over the last few decades. However, badger populations have stayed relatively stable despite habitat loss and, felling of woodlands. And the reason is that because they have all sort of congregated into the same area. So the population has stayed roughly the same, but the population density of badgers has increased. So you'll find more badgers in less woodlands, if that makes sense. And so because of that, you're less likely to find hedgehogs in woodlands nowadays, unless there's really suitable habitat or there's no badgers there. And because I know that we have at least 3 badgers here, based on footage caught by the wildlife camera. I think there's a slim chance that we have hedgehogs here, although it would be cool to find out if we do. Things like the dead hedge, for example, I'm sure you can see signs somewhere that there are hedgehogs. I think the best place to look is probably in the bracken and the brambles, but who knows, they might have moved into the dead hedge and we might be lucky to see one maybe in the autumn time, just before they go into hibernation. But another way that you can increase habitat availability for animals like hedgehogs is, of course, by... There's a very strange clicking sound over there. I've never heard that in my life. Sounds like a person, to be honest. Hello? 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 Someone there? That might be one of the strangest encounters I've ever had on this land, and there's been some strange ones, trust me. There's been some strange ones, there's been some disturbing ones. I was just stood there talking about the hedgehogs and I heard a very distinct clapping over here. I hope it picked up on the microphone. It sounded very much like someone was just stood here clapping at me. Like right here, right behind these trees. I suppose it could have been a badger or something, making a chattering noise, but it was very much a clapping sound. Okay, so deer, hedgehogs and creepy sounds aside, we've actually managed to clear this entire left-hand side up to roughly where the dead hedge is. Now I'm just going to clear a little bit more of this back side, then we're going to go over to the chicken coop and get to work on that balsam. Okay, so there we have it, that whole channel there, and this corner here are now cleared from the worst of the bracken. Like I said, there is still some over on this side, but I think this side is a bit more shaded, doesn't really get the sun as much. So it looks like there's quite a drastic difference between the growth of that side versus the side that gets the sun. But another thing I want to do just before I start work on the big balsam is to reinstall the wildlife camera again. Because like I was saying, down here in the dead hedge, I was able to catch some quite interesting footage of a wood mouse using the hedge, which like I said is a really nice sign. And if you saw one of our previous uploads, overall I think we've captured over 1,000 videos and probably hundreds of hours of footage in total. But a few of the videos that caught my attention the most were videos of large herds of deer moving through the woodland. So you can see in some of those videos there's like up to maybe 9 or 12 or maybe even more deer at once all moving through the woodland together. If we look down here, I mean, perhaps not right now, it's probably a bit too dry, but we can still see some imprints like this here. That's a very noticeable imprint. When you look close enough, there is evidence of wildlife moving through here. Look at this. Look at that, that's a very noticeable scuff right there. And if you sort of take a step back, you can see it sort of forms a trail. Can you see this? But on the videos, when I placed the camera down here, for example, I did notice that the deer were using this hill here. And again, look, very noticeable signs of sort of a scuffle there. Looks like it could be a hoof print there. But I definitely think the deer are using this path here. I would love to capture the herds of deer moving through. So we've got this tree here, quite a big beech tree. I don't know if the camera will strap all the way around there, but I'm going to try to set it up on this tree. If not, I'll put it on that birch down there. No, it's not going to reach. It's not going to reach. Whoa, I don't know how the deer managed to get up and down here. There we are, so I've just set the motion trap camera again on this beautiful silver birch here. It's pointing up the hill to where I believe the deer have been walking up and down, in and out of the woodland. So hopefully it will capture something. The first thing it's going to capture is me sat here talking to the camera. And again, this is all just to give us not only cool footage, but to give us an idea of how the woodland is being used by wildlife in this area, the badgers, the deer, you know, the red kites and buzzards that we often see, and it gives us the opportunity to monitor that, how that changes and how the biodiversity and the abundance of life here changes as we continue our work on restoring the native ecosystem here. Okay, and now the time has come to tackle this horrible infestation here of Himalayan balsam. And I've got, yet again, a fun toy to play with today, because once again my lovely sister has allowed me to borrow her GoPro. And it comes with this awesome head strap, so I bet I'm going to look absolutely amazing in this video. And so without further ado, let's run through the jungle. So you can see how easily it pulls up out the ground. So it's really not difficult to remove at all. The roots are just like, they start off these like sort of thick red ones, and then they just go out into these very thin white ones, and they just don't hold in the ground very well at all. So it's really not difficult to pull them out. You do have to be careful again of the seed pods. Luckily, not many of these have ripened seed pods, I should say. And you might ask, why am I doing this if it's just going to come back next year? Well, the thing is, we don't actually need to get into the chicken coop at the moment, but by keeping on top of plants like this, you slowly reduce their numbers. Putting them out the soil like this, not all of them are going to survive and resprout. So you are making a dent. The quickest way to do it would be just spray like Roundup, like, glyphosate, some sort of pesticide or herbicide on the ground. And we are not doing that here. We've got up here, I think this is a willow tree of some kind up here. And, we've got lovely trees all around here. And the last thing we want to be doing is spraying things like Roundup just to get rid of an invasive plant. If it comes to it, we will consider it. We're not going to rule anything out. But at the moment, we're going to just see how big a dent we can make by just pulling the plants out. This is yet another area that we can look at planting some trees along here and just opening up again this floor here. I mean, wow, you can see that. Look at that, I hope you can see that. Yeah, this is ground zero for the Himalayan Balsam. Here we go, so already we're making a massive dent, and I'm hoping to find, there's the water butt just there. I can see it laying down among the balsam. Oh, that nettle got me. That's okay. I used to have this job where every morning I'd have to walk through a field of nettles. Not, they didn't ask me to, that was just the way I got to work, because I didn't drive, so I had to walk along a road and then jump over this fence and walk through a field of these stinging nettles. And after a while, I built up an immunity, so I just walked straight through them, wouldn't feel a thing. But it's been a while since then, so they start to sting me again now. So this was once upon a time a chicken coop, and I have mentioned this before in previous videos. There was one video that I made all about the chicken coop that never came to light. And you can also see it on the old satellite photos of the woodland. You can see this is that big brown clearing back in 2002. That's this area here. And it's just crazy to see how, how much it's grown back since then. Obviously not with the species that we would prefer to be here, but still it's a massive change in a relatively short period of time. But that's why there's quite a lot of rubbish in this area, because this was my granddad's main area of work, and there was actually a track down there somewhere that he would come in, drive up into this area to be able to turn around and drive back down, hauling logs out, because this is a clearing. There were Douglas firs here at one point. There's that water butt just there. So if I just keep pulling them out, hopefully get to that and I can start piling them in there. Okay, here's that tub I was looking for. God knows what condition it's in and what's been living underneath it. I don't want to know. There's all sorts of creepy crawlies under there. Let's see if we can move it back this way though. Ah! So that's an issue, because that's where we've been piling up those bags I just mentioned. Okay. Okay. So have we got another one? I don't think there is another one. I think they're the ones we took out. So the tub I was looking for has already been used for that plastic. So this might be a lost cause today at least, but look at the impact we've made, the dent. We've made a big dent already. Well, at least it's a bit more accessible again. I'm sure the balsam won't hesitate to grow back as quickly as it wants to. But again, it's a shame that the tub's already in use. Regardless, we made a dent, and you can see we've cleared it up as well now. I will have to sort that balsam out another day. It's getting super hot now. I think it's over 30 degrees already. And although it's shaded here, the humidity is really difficult to work in. So I'm going to go up to the top now, have some lunch, and I've got a few more tasks to do up there. And then I think we'll call it a day for today. I was just doing a little routine health check on our almond tree. You can see it is completely swamped by, well, this is a foxglove, but you've got all sorts growing up next to it. And unfortunately it looks like all the almonds have wilted away. There's one just there. So no almonds this year, unfortunately. I think that will be due to the extremely hot weather. I know what some of you are going to say. Almonds are, of course, adapted to hot weather. The trees mainly grow in the Mediterranean and California, where they get a lot of sunshine, a lot of heat. But on farms, almond farms, they're going to be watered quite frequently, and because it's been absolutely bone dry for weeks here, unfortunately the tree just hasn't got the water it needs to produce the nuts this year. So there's the remnants of them there. So unfortunately no almonds this year. That's a shame. I think hopefully by next year we'll have some sort of good irrigation system, to be able to water our crops if we continue to get extremely hot summers like this. That's a shame. At least the tree's still alive. It is hot. Let's see what this is saying now. What's that? That's 35 in the greenhouse, it looks like. I can tell you it feels a lot hotter than that because of the humidity. I think today the forecast said it was getting up to 30 or 31 outside, but whoa, coming out here feels like stepping into a fridge. It's awesome. I'm not going in there again today. I'm gonna zip that up for today. And then come the end of summer, hopefully when this endless heat wave has passed, we will do yet another renovation of the greenhouse, because every year it gets overgrown and we just need to keep on top of it. Already, compared to the outside, the inside, considering it's still just on the bare soil, there's much less plant life in there. If you're in a town or a city and you've been really struggling during this heat wave, this unbearable heat wave, start a petition or something with your local community and contact your local authorities to try to campaign to have more trees in your urban areas. In my own town, there's a lot of areas that I look at and I just think there's so much potential there for some kind of community-led rewilding project or some sort of food forest or something like that, like all these disused areas that could quite easily be turned into some community-driven nature restoration project. And so it doesn't have to be to that level in your own city, but if you are struggling in the heat, I definitely recommend trying to rally together with your community and campaigning to just plant trees as every way you can, because it's so essential. And this heat wave is, for many people, the first real and present and close to home example of climate change, because it's not something that's on the other side of the planet or in the distant future anymore. It's here. Climate is changing. These are bluebells. So the bluebells were out back in, April and May, and they've since dried up. And you can just about tell, you can just about see how that was a bluebell not too long ago. Ah, I've got something else to show you as well. That is a tick. If you've never had a tick before, you've got to be very careful of these buggers. Can you see that there? But what you can do with these old dried up bluebells is, if you listen, let me see if you can hear that on my mic. Can you hear that? Can you hear how it's rattling? That is all the little seeds inside the flower there. So if you see dried up old bluebells like this, you can do some ASMR with them. Or you can pick a few, don't pick all of them, but you can pick a few and scatter the seeds around. And that will help the bluebells spread next year. There you go, you can see the seeds in this. If I pick that out, there you go, they just shook everywhere. Now the seeds are on the ground and should hopefully help the bluebells spread. I wanted to see, I think it's gone. I want to show you guys something. In this tree here, there was a bird's nest, but it has now been abandoned, I believe. There was some moss covering that hole. Yeah, it's been abandoned now. And so I believe this was a robin's nest. Robins will often use moss to block off their nests and also to insulate them. So it's good to be back though for this first video in a while. I know there were still uploads going, but I haven't actually been here for about 2 months now. So if you enjoyed this video, guys, go ahead and click like, and if you're not already, subscribe to the Wellstead, because here we are. Whoa! Why does this always happen when I'm in the middle of talking? Look at this feather. Do you remember when this happened last year? This to me looks like the feather of a pheasant, a female pheasant to me. And I want to thank you all again for helping us reach 1,000 subscribers. Oh, what an achievement, and what a great way to start this new chapter of the Wellstead. So thank you for watching. Keep your eyes out on the channel for all future videos. If you haven't already, go follow us on Instagram at the Wellstead Rewilding, where we post more regular updates and post some news about potential future volunteering opportunities as well. If you go down to the link in the description as well, you will also find our ongoing fundraiser, raising money to plant trees down there in the farm. And again, a day like today shows how planting trees, it's not only going to benefit us, but it's going to benefit that microclimate down there, and in turn that will benefit the wildlife and the birds that live there, because there won't be so much dry plants, there'll be more food for them year round. So again, thank you for watching this video, and I will catch you in the next episode at the Wellstead.